Good evening, sports fans. Good evening, everybody who is ADBBL Season 7 fan. Welcome to your Monday night roundup. So, you might notice we've got some changes this evening. Change is always quite an interesting and exciting thing in the world of Blood Bowl. So, we don't have the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Coe. You might notice he's not quite with us tonight, or you might look at our new very special guest star and you think either Chris has done something with his hair over the weekend that he spectacularly cut for charity, or something is going amiss. I can reassure you, fear not, very good viewer, that Mr. Chris Coe, he has not gone to a Tibetan monastery to learn the art of Blood Bowl Zen. No, he is in the background filling with the technical information and the technical buttons and leads and all that good stuff behind the scenes. So if you do want to call him out in chat, please do. He will be there, and I'm sure that people will want to hear his dulcet tones. Good evening, JD. Good evening, Hogle. Good evening, everybody in chat. I'm joined by always as the second part of the Monday night roundup triumvirate, Mr. Tom Hovel. Good evening, Tom. So how are you this evening?
Yep, very well. All good. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you, sir. Doing well. We're going to come to several of your matches in due course this evening. I'm also very, very pleased to welcome a very super uber guest star. He's also a very up-and-coming coach in the world of ADBBL. Very pleased to introduce Jack. Good evening, Jack.
How's it going, Scott? You all right, mate?
We're doing well. Good. And if you want to be like Jack, enjoying the splendor that is an ADBBL Monday night podcast, just give us a touch, give us a shout. Give us a touch? What am I saying? Just give us a call, give us a shout even. I've been looking at those links Chris has been sending me too many times. But if you want to be like Jack, if you want to be on the Monday night podcast, give us a shout, get yourself on here, share your thoughts, witterings and insight on all things Blood Bowl as well. So for those who don't know, Jack is our Premier Norse player this season. He is the coach of the Agathon Mewers, and he is here tonight joining us and hopefully going to dispel the notion that a rookie coach is a 6-point coach. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Now, before we start and we jump into all 10 matches that we're going to cover for you tonight, just a few little updates of regular pieces of housekeeping as well. We support a great charity. We support Macmillan Cancer as well, part of our community efforts to give back what we can. If you want to make a donation for anything that you see, even for anything you want us to do, even if it's for a bounty on a particular player, go to the Just Giving link that will be posted somewhere, either here in Discord or on the mighty YouTube. If you can give, great. Talking of the wonderful world of Discord, just a quick shout out to Graham and his Toxic Runners. So if you know Graham, he is this season's this season's Prince of the Rats as well. And if you want to have your Season 7 team captured forever in a moment of glory with a team photo and including any wanted posters for those notorious and nefarious star players, go to Discord, have a chat with Graham, and for a small donation to the Macmillan Just Giving page, you'll be able to immortalize all of your favorite superstars as well. Keep an eye out for that. And not just team photos. Something else we've done for you as well. We're going to talk a little bit here about skills and bans. We all love it when you randomly get an absolute great tier 1 skill onto your player, or if you've been saving all of those SPP for a new stat as well. How can you do that? How can you make sure that your opponent doesn't forget those very important rerolls, dice rolls, +1s, or even key things that are going to make or break your match? So let's imagine the scenario. We're at the back of A&D. We're having a quiet game of Blood Bowl. And I look at Mr. Tom Hovel and I say, hey, Tom, I have a Wraith. And this particular Wraith has 1 blue loom band on and 1 orange loom band on as well. What skills do you think he'll have?
Oh, maybe a blue one, maybe a red one. I don't know.
Well, that's the point exactly, BBL fans, because nobody knows. So, in this real example, this Wraith, of course, he has Cannoneer and Sure Hands. What else are you going to give a Wraith in the modern Blood Bowl age? But if you go into store, you go to the back of the store, you'll see a piece of black card onto the wall as well. There is a white Posca marker pen for you. Other marker pen brands are available. You can use that free of charge. Take it as soon as you've got your upgrade. You can just write neatly, or as however you write, those skills onto the base of your player. No more loom bands. No more having to spend hours trying to paint minute little characters or letters onto the base of your model. So it's there. Please use it. When you finish, pop the pen top back, pop the pen onto the wall, ready for the next coach to use. And if it's helpful and we can make it better, we will. So just a quick run reminder there. So without further delay, about enough insane witterings. Good evening, everybody else who's joined us in chat as well. Let's go and let's start looking at this week's matches. And we're going to kick it off with the GOAT itself. We're going to start off with Riotous Rams versus the Wildermere Wasps. Chaos Chosen versus the Black Orc. Tom, expectations, were they high for the Rams going into this? And did the Rams meet those expectations, or did the Black Orcs have something to say about them?
Well, we know that the Riotous Rams are a formidable foe, and I think everyone was expecting them to come out all guns blazing, and they clearly didn't disappoint. Although I did think that Nanny had quite a slow start, taking it all the way to turn 2 to get its first casualty. But looking at the stats on the Black Orc side to start off with, having to already take a journeyman, and then also taking 2 star players. So you'd think that's a pretty good matchup, considering what Black Orcs are. How many strength 4 players on their team? Is it 6?
There is indeed quite a number sitting there looking good as well.
Yes, six Black Orcs, 1 with block and a troll as well. So they weren't going to. You wouldn't think there would be much of a pushover, and there may have been some quite lucky dice on here, because clearly looking down this whole side of things, a lot happened in the very first two turns, which unfortunately meant that they were clearly a Black Orc and a Goblin Bruiser down already, and then turn 2 happened and another Black Orc got knocked out. Your half of your strength has gone out within the first 2 turns, which I think was a bit unfortunate.
It was a big start indeed by the Riotous Rams. Now, Jack, you've obviously, young Richard quite well and his Rams.
Yeah.
What's your take as a new coach when you come in and you see a team like the Rams, 4th season in, really, people are calling them out as some pre-season favourites. What do you think of the Rams in terms of how they're standing as well? And would you have done anything different that you saw Simon do in this matchup?
I mean, to be fair, I don't blame him for doing the odd foul here and there, getting sent off and that. Black Orcs, I mean, I would have thought he could have potentially gotten a few more casualties, but it looks like Rich was pretty dominant in that aspect, as well as the touchdowns. I mean, one thing's for sure, I don't want to come up against Rich in the knockout stages if I make it through. That's for sure. I mean, that's just scary. You got a lot of mighty blow. You got a lot of block as well. Plenty of guard. Plenty of break tackle. I mean, that's just a team I'd be scared to play, to be honest. Definitely.
Good. Even when, if you look at Rich and how he's gone about it, we know he's got the GOAT. We know he's got Nanny. But you look at also Bob, the chosen blocker, has also come up there now. So Bob is, phenomenal in terms of veteran status there as well. He's also got Ram, who's just phenomenal as well. So he's looking very, very solid. Any thoughts you could share with any of his future opponents? Or is it, well, how would you look at this? If you did have to play Rich in the knockouts, anything that's already you're thinking about in terms of your mindset, in terms of how you might upset his rhythm or how to play him?
I mean, you've got I think half his team are movement 5. So if I was to come up against him, honestly, I'd just try to keep my distance. And what I tend to do as well against anyone, just place your pieces right as well. Especially if I was using Norse, I wouldn't go into his tackle zones, I'd make sure I'm at least a couple squares away, so he has to use that blitz on someone. But yeah, with all that guard as well, I think how many pieces he got guard on? Is it 3?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say how you'd play against a team like that. To be honest, I mean, take out I'd say the weaker ones, but the strength threes, try get them out or get them down. But I mean, if you've got a speedy team, I'd just try for them 1, 2, or 3 turn touchdowns.
Excellent. Yeah. And as you rightly said, he hasn't just got block, he hasn't just got guard, he hasn't just got those incredibly souped up plays, but he's obviously got things like break-in tackle as his random there. So even if you do, going to your point, if you do want to dodge away, not the easiest thing in the world with obviously that -2 addition in terms of that dodge roll as well. So yeah, Rich looking strong as well. Do you think either of you gentlemen, do you think at the moment Rich has come in another 3-0 win? We'll come on to talk about his second match shortly. Do you think, is there anyone you're seeing at the moment who you think could give him a run for his money? We talked last week about some of the teams that are going under the web radar, whether it's the Prince of Vampires and the Amazon Supremo himself, Mr. Tom Hands, or even you had someone such as Robert and his Orcs as well. So do you think there's anybody who could take for Rich, or do you think it's sort of there for Rich to lose this season?
Oh, I definitely think that there's other coaches out there, and not to kind of take it away, but it did, from what I can see on tour play, there was a lot of fortunate rolls right at the very beginning, which kind of scuppered Simon's play straight away in turn 1 and turn 2 with like I say, with 3 players already out, and then the first touchdown not starting until turn 5. So I think he's not unbeatable. Clearly, Tom Huns, as you quite rightly mentioned, beat him last year in the playoffs and the quarterfinals 2-1. But again, looking down his scores on this, down his latest matches, he's had some quite long, good streaks of not losing. But looking again, he's lost to likes of Amazons, Underworld. He's also lost to kind of Korn as well. So it's clear that in the past, this team isn't unbeatable.
Cool. And what I do love, and thank you for that, Tom, what I do love is the fact that we've got a lot of coaches in chat being prepared to pick up that gauntlet that we just thrown down. JD, Tom, JD, my L's will go for Rich. Will they get away with it though, JD, in terms of that armor 8? Tom as well, I'll play against Rich. Look forward to it as well. So all looking good. And yes, Chris, absolutely. The Owlbears would, if, for whatever reason, they happen to have in another multiverse come up against the Riotous Rams. We all know that there is only one true winner in that scenario. So, we still hold you in that level of esteem. So we get off then this evening with a great win for the Rams, starting to get momentum in their league challenge. We go then from the Rams, we stick with the group, which is McMurtry's, and we go on to the next match, which is the World Meet of Wasps. So Simon and his Black Orcs coming off the back of that 3-0 defeat, now up against the Gnomes of Honkington's Folly. So this was a very, very different match in terms of it. Jack, we'll start with you. Obviously, you've seen the Black Orcs of Simon coming off the back of the 3-1. What do you think as a new coach? You've got that loss. You've had a very big casualty. A good recovery then from Simon, and some interesting stats when you look at the injuries and the physicality of those Orcs really coming to the fore.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to come from that loss 3-0 down to a 3-1 win is just great. It's I mean, some people can get quite down, especially Elliot, who if you get a loss, you can go into your next match thinking, "Oh, I can't do it." It's not going to go well. But he's just completely turned it around here. I see a few fouls there as well with his goblins. Always helps. And it's great that he's got all them 3 touchdowns.
And the physicality that we mentioned, 5 casualties, 21 SPP as well. Tom, what's your thoughts in terms of that bounce back there from Simon? And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does take that certain kind of individual to dust themselves off, and it was straight after that game. So straight after Riotous Ram straight in, and clearly he was baying for blood because straight away he got an injury, and Nutmeg the Hog managed to cause a casualty, and then straight away again in turn 3 got another casualty. So it shows how easily and how nicely Nuffle plays the dice for these teams. Clearly, we're going backwards and forwards with a lot of fouling, a lot of injuries, and touchdowns coming in quickly. I'd be interested to know if that was a one-turn touchdown. It looks like it must have been a one-turn touchdown between turn 7 was the first touchdown, then turn 8 was the second. So it must have been a throw, a goblin.
Could be a blitz coming on in there, definitely. Or it could have been, something happened in terms of the receiving for the Gnomes. But you're absolutely right. Really powerful start to get into that 2-0 halftime lead. You've got several things out. You've got a Beastmaster out and a lineman out as well. And that sort of continued that theme into the second half. So when we look at the Gnomes, they're a new team. It's the first team in. People, a bit fresh with them as well. Are they appealing to you, or are the results just pushing you further away from possibly taking them in the future, Jack?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. When the Gnomes came out, I went full out. I got, bought everything and that. And I haven't actually used them yet, so I can't say much on them. But what I have seen people using them, I mean, I remember discussing before with Tom, or I think it might have been Elliot, that they should be a tier 2 considering their skills and stuff. But the results I've seen, I can see why they're tier 3. I know you've got some great players like the Foxes, which could easily get you 1-turn, 2-turn touchdowns. But I don't know. It's not really, being a new player and all. It's not one of the first teams I'd pick, to say the least.
Yeah, even with the 2 trees, do you think it's a question of coaches just trying to find that sweet spot? Just trying to get that right balance in terms of they have the illusionist, they have the ability to move around as well. They've got the strength in the middle of the 2 treemen. Looks like most people are taking the treemen, and that seems to be more where the relative success is coming from. As you said, they've got the woodland foxes who can cause a whole lot of trouble, and it seems to be the woodland foxes are scoring the majority of their touchdowns this year. So it sounds like you're on the side of the fence that would say not just at the moment, then in terms of taking them for a possible future team there, Jack. Tom, what about yourself? Gnomes, yes or no, or one for the watch and see pile? He's on mute. And he's off and he's on mute. We'll have to speak to our technical people just to see. Maybe he hasn't paid his license, or maybe he's gone. Okay, well, we'll come back to Tom and his opinion on Gnomes. Maybe the Gnomes have got themselves into the electrics, and I'll block in his mute. So it was a challenging game for the Gnomes. It was a really good comeback there from Simon. So we move on then. So we'll go from there. We're going to actually stay with this group for our 3rd consecutive match, and it's the all of a sudden we go from Mr. Richard Simons as well and the Riotous Rams, fresh off a 3-0 win, coming in then against Sir Honkington's Folly, who had just come off a 3-1 defeat to the team beaten by the Rams. So on paper, it looked like it was only going to be one-way traffic. Did this really surprise you, Jack? If you look at the score, first of all, and then you look at the stats, what's your reaction to this? Would you have expected just a 1-0 win for the Rams at the beginning of this match?
No, definitely not. I mean, playing against a known team, as you saw with the last one, you would have thought, I mean, Black Hawks has got all that strength. Rich has got all them skills and that strength too. I mean, I'm very it's good that he only allowed him to get one touchdown. And obviously the Treeman getting a casualty there. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great result for a new gnome player as well, a new team that is. But yeah, I was very surprised Rich didn't get any more touchdowns. It's a shame the gnomes couldn't sneak one in there, but I think that's a great game on both parts there.
It was indeed a big bag. Tom, are you back? Can you hear us?
Hear me. Testing.
Welcome. So you've got rid of the bailiffs. They haven't nicked the TV then this time. Excellent stuff.
I think it's gnomes. The gnomes are hacking my system up here. But I just noticed you're talking about the Sir Hulkington Folly. They're playing. There's two teams in this division, both gnomes. Both are playing it completely differently. So Hulkington Folly, looking at it, they've got a Woodland Fox with 7 SPP. They've also got a Beastmaster with 6 SPP, and now also a Tree Man with 3 SPP. So they're slowly building up the SPP, but not putting any skills on it. Whereas the other team are randomizing everything. So you've got 2 completely different ways. So I'm still not understanding or working out how the gnomes play. So are you going back to your original question? Is would I take them? Not yet. That's my answer on that.
Not yet. And it does seem to the people who are using them, and kudos, guys, if you are taking and diving into the world of the new gnome team as well, does suggest that, yeah, people are still trying to find this sweet spot of balance. Do they run 1? Do they run 2 trees? Do they run, obviously they can run a maximum of 2 foxes as well. And do they look at this team? Jack, you called out rightly so. It's a tier 2. Oh, sorry, tier 3. Maybe it should be a tier 2. But in terms of this particular side, and that's what we're seeing at this moment for the gnomes as well, do you think it's more of a 2, maybe 3 season build to get this team to an optimal level with the right skills?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, you got a few, like I say, the foxes start with dodge. I don't think anyone else starts with dodge, but if you can build up that SPP, slowly get your linemen to get dodge as well. I mean, they're all stunty, so I think that could be a really good combination if you can get the SPP for them, definitely. And obviously the treemen, keep getting casualties with the treemen, and then I think you're onto a winner.
Yeah, because obviously they come with stunty and wrestle. The principle in terms of the ethos with the gnomes is, they'll get down, you'll knock them down, but then they'll get up with wrestle quicker than you, with jump up as well, and off they go as well. You still got the risk of obviously, take root with those trees as well. So I think the jury is very much out on it. I think people are, myself included, we're excited by the possibility that you could have this new dynamic of a new team and a nice new faction within the BBL world. So it's one we're going to keep a very close eye on for this, and when we look at the rest of the gnomes as well. So chat if you're there, or anybody if you're watching it. If you want to watch or make a comment in terms of gnomes or anything else you're seeing tonight, please let us know as well. Gnome opinion was too controversial for the stream. Absolutely, we love controversial. And just thank you, Jack, for calling Elliot out there for a possible bit of saltiness. We like that. Any trash, really. Any trash talk is wonderful. The more the merrier in this world as well. So the gnomes, will keep an eye on them as well to make sure they don't come back and take Tom. So 2 matches, 2 wins for the Rams. Simon coming back with the Black Orcs as well. And it looks like it's going to be a really good experience and learning for the gnomes this year. Let's move on to our next match then. We're going to go to what I personally think was probably one of the matches of the season so far. I know we have at least one of the coaches, even Mr. Scott Norman, in the coach as well for the Flamingos and the Goblos versus Dave and his Shambling Undead. I don't know if you 2 gentlemen saw this at all on Tour Play, but if you haven't seen it on Tour Play, anybody, Go back, have a look, and recommend it. This was an incredible match. I think at halftime we were down with both teams. We were down to less than double figures of players on the pitch. You had the fouls and everything being thrown in at the Flamingos as always. It was as if all the KOs for the linesmen, Scott's dice couldn't do no wrong. Loads of Dave's players ended up being KO'd and taken off, and it was an absolute great. So to go from that position to a 2-0, big turnaround on that. So from your perspective then, Tom, what's your thoughts in terms of this match? Did you catch it? Did you see it? What do you think?
I was literally on the other pitch, on the other next to it. So yeah, we were seeing it and hearing it go on. And just to look on Tourplay, if you weren't watching it, you always know it's going to be a good game just by that timeline along the top there, just underneath the names of the teams, the number of little crash helmets, boots, and crosses. So this looked and it was an hilarious looking game. There was absolute foul domination by the Flamingos, as we can well see, trying to get some kind of casualties. But of course, with the Shambling Undead, they've got that regen. So this was kicking in all the time. So as you can see on turn 1 and turn 2, we got casualties. But there's nothing recorded on the Shambling Undead side. So regen kicked in. So it looked like a fantastic game.
Was indeed. Coaches in there saying that, yes. Mr. Norman is saying lots of skulls, double skulls roll from both coaches, many ones rolled into ones. I think it seems to be a bit of a common theme, and we'll talk about that shortly as well. And thank you for Chris for mentioning that. I mean, I'm going to take a moment just to call out as well for Dave and for Scott as well. If you listen to the audio, listen to the commentary, it is the coaches that made this game. They set a really high example of good commentary, good interaction with the audience as well. Great interaction and a good ethos between both of them. Really enjoying playing Blood Bowl. So kudos and a big shout out for both of those as well. The Flamingos obviously, come away with the 2-0 win. You can see towards the end of the second half, it did go back towards the Shambling Undead. From your perspective then, Jack, you look at these two teams, you look at Dave, who's obviously now in his second season, slight tweaking, but obviously the Goblins coming in for Scott as well. Did you think 2-0, is that what you would have predicted at the start of the match when you look at the Undead versus the Gobbos? And was anything about that, you look at this and anything particular stand out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've kept a close eye on David's team, the Shambling, because I see he's won every game, hasn't he, so far?
Yeah.
And I know also Scott. He loves his goblins, so he's obviously a professional goblin player. So it's quite, in my opinion, unpredictable what could have happened in this game, and I don't think you could have got more action if you asked for it. All the casualties, the fouling, of course, from Scott with the Goblins. I'm not, as a new player, I'm not too knowledgeable on how they play, but one thing's for sure I can see is fouling is definitely one of their key points there. But from what I can see, that was a great game, and yeah.
And again, just to point out that the Flamingos are racking up some SPP on some of these players. He could easily be selecting skills on them, but tactically, by the looks of things, he's not doing it to keep his team value low so that he can bring in some star players. Unfortunately, in this particular game, didn't really help.
It did as well. It's a great one to see. I mean, just if we're going to call out some key action and key players, as Scott mentioned, Bomber blew himself up, a linesman and Fungus the Loon with a fumbled bomb. I remember Dave saying, they were talking about, should I catch it? Could I throw it back? What's going to go on? So it sounds like a great match. Robert Lewandowski, as Robert Lewandowski does in the real world, scoring 2 touchdowns as well. So all of a sudden, you've got a ghoul runner. And when we think about the bounty and bounty call-outs later, gentlemen, you've got a ghoul runner there, not just with the inherent dodge, but suddenly you've got block and strip ball. So for a piece who's been designed to go get that ball, he's skilled that pretty well, and there's an extra 15 SPP sitting there waiting. So some very good long-term development there from Dave as well. And if you look at the Flamingos, well, what can you say? As you rightly called out there, Tom, they're starting to get there on SPP. However, we know what's happened when they almost get to infamy and have that stat increase. We've just seen it there as well. So, yeah, it could all go very, very south very, very quickly. So it's been a really good match. It's been, as you said, Jack, the Shambling Undead really putting together a strong, strong run. Flamingos we'll come on to look at in terms of where they are in the league position, but it sets things up nicely as well for future on that as well. So all in all, great game. Thoroughly enjoyed by everybody. Again, the link is in chat if you want to go have a look at it. And last again, no apologies for calling them out because they are such a great pair of coaches. Dave and Scott, thank you for it was a great piece of entertainment. Cool. Right, let's go then from the fantastic match to another really, really good match. So this was in Popcorn Group, which is yours truly's group. And this was an interesting one in the build-up. You had Sam and the Lizardmen, the double yokes, against Simon and Sid's Saracens. So we know that the double yokes redrafted from last year. Sam playing the patient game. He was in a very tough group last year, saving his SPPs. And Sid Saracens, a brand new team for Simon, been in a bit of a tough group as well, this one as well. And looking at it, a 3-1 win. Tom, what's your thoughts on that? How do you feel as well the match went, and did it reflect sort of the development of this team with Sam having that extra season under his belt?
Yeah, I thought looking at this one, it looked like it started off initially quite positive for the humans, scoring in the third turn a touchdown. So really trying to play the agile game against the lizards potentially here, but then it started to go a little bit south. And maybe, as you quite already say, Sam's experience with playing the game, just calming it down, thinking, well, it's not all over, it's only 1-0, and then coming back for 1-1 just before half time. Cheeky little foul and an injury on the Croxagore on turn 8 before going into the half time. And again, really shows the mettle of some of these kind of coaches where you've drawn, and then one of your big players gets knocked out for the rest of the second half. So really, really well played by the looks of things. And again, nicely spaced out with lots of fouls, lots of injuries being caused, but just carried on pushing through to score those extra 2 touchdowns to make it 3-1.
It very much was. Simon obviously adjusting to his new team, keeping up the pressure on Sam. It's the one thing Sam was speaking about, that, you know, there was always there, but the opportunity that Simon could have scored if the dice had gone his way slightly. He did take the mighty squirrel, which is always a wonderful thing to see when you look at the acorn on a pitch as well. Sam, as you said, got the first touchdown, weathered the storm very well as well, and then really, you know, to come back for that, you know, Simon came back, get the extra touchdown to bring it to 2-1, and then Sam just pushed on to get that turn 14 with Florentine the Skink in terms of starting to build that SPP. Jack, what's your thoughts? You like playing Lizardmen? Can you not stand them? What's your thoughts on this? And you know, you're in your rookie season, you've got a new team. Had you done lots of practice with the Norse before? Have you come into them fresh? What was your take on them? So when we look at Simon's journey, he's got his new team, and they're pretty fresh, you know, at the box and onto the pitch top as well. And I know, speaking to Simon, he was undecided because he was talking about going with Corn, possibly before this. So from your perspective, are you surprised when you see you know, a rookie team with a coach like this? And would you have done anything different? Did you do anything different with the Norse?
I mean, to be fair, not knowing how many, I know it's a new team for Simon Humans. With Norse, obviously, I just played nothing but Norse. So and obviously, you know, coming from playing against Tom and that, who are basically veterans at this point. I've put the hours in, so I mean, as long as he's getting these other friendly games in when he can, I mean, Human aren't a bad team by any means. Obviously, Tom playing against him, both our matches were just incredibly stressful. But I can see how Humans can be a great team. They've got a bit of everything, and coming up against a team like Lizard Men, who you got the big guys at the front, the blockers and that, and obviously your skinks at the back ready to get those touchdowns. I mean, personally, I think the Lizard Men are quite another scary team to come up against. So I think he's done quite well there to get the 2 casualties and not let the Lizard Men get any by the looks of it.
It was indeed. It was a good match. I say Simon was keeping the pressure on throughout this, and watching it as a fellow coach in this league. You had the Crocs, and when I spoke to Sam, because if you look, it was a foul from Gaza, the catcher, and then the Crocs is out, sort of may slightly have altered their dynamics for the next match in this division that we'll come on to talk about with the double yokes. But it was, it just shows as well. Sam was saying that he had caged up, maybe a little bit of cheeky stalling then, and Simon just sort of went for it. But all the players around the Crocs did the foul, got the armor break, and rolled that injury as well. So really focused on that big guy to get him off the pitch, did well. Couldn't just quite make it back. But yeah, as you said, Humans, they can be a bit of everything, sort of jack of all trades, master of none. But when they do work, they can be a very powerful. And as well, Simon running it with their full block. It'd be interesting to know, is Simon going to continue these, or are they going to be a one-season wonder? Only time will tell. Comments in chat, Simon really tried to cause chaos with Acorn. We expect nothing less from Simon as a good coach and from the mighty Acorn the Squirrel as well. Jack's Prep is like Ipswich Town. Is that a good thing? Jack's Prep is like Ipswich Town picking up Pep Guardiola. Borderline unfair, but you love to see it. Jack, I don't know if that's a good compliment or as nice as we can be to a coach on his first stream. What's your thoughts on that? Or do you think Chris is just trying to encourage you to come back next time?
Oh no, I think he's just trying to stir the pot, isn't he? That's fair enough. No, that's a fair comment.
It was indeed. So yeah, so a good win there for Sam. Really cemented his position second in that division again. We're now going to move away from the world of the lizards and the world of humans, then into vampires versus ogres. This is another Blood Bowl stream that we saw as well. James and his ogres versus John and his vampires. So John, not quite there, maybe finding again a new team for John. John, obviously previous winner. He is, if you are the Prince of the North this season, Jack, then obviously John is the supreme overlord of the team from Norska as well. Previous champion, finalist, semi-finalists, Nobel Prize winner, all-round man, myth, legend. So going into this, maybe John not liking or settling with the vampires. You're a vampire aficionado then, Tom. What's your thoughts in terms of John's position going into this and against James, who's been one of those going under the radar a bit with the ogres?
Yeah, so this is the rematch. So this is their second game. The Vampires won 2-1 last time. And going into this, the Vampires had picked up some nice skills. So classic John doesn't do anything by halves and strategically picks his skills rather than randomizing them. And he's got some really nice block on practically both his throwers have got block. One's got block dodge. He's got a blitzer with strip ball, which is really impressive, especially with Juggernaut as well on that blitzer, and then even 2 linemen with block. So you're up against a pretty formidable foe here. But looking at what actually happened, Ogres started off good, killing a thrall, and then badly injuring another one. And knowing how to play with vampires, your thralls are quite literally your lifeblood. you have to roll for bloodlust every turn. So as soon as you start losing some of these thralls, you're at the whim of the dice. And I don't know whether that played a big part in this game, but it clearly held the vampires to a draw.
When you look at these two teams then, Jack, what's your thoughts in terms of, is there a team, you'd like, when you look at vampires generally, are they a team you'd like to avoid? Or are they a team we think, yeah, they'll probably end up killing themselves, if anything at all?
Oh God, I won't lie. I mean, unless my brother's gotten incredibly lucky with vampires, I absolutely hate them. I hate playing against them. Just speeding past, hypnogazing all my players, getting touched. Yeah, I mean, unless his dice rolls and his experience were just on point for the games he's played against me, vampires definitely can be a dangerous team. But then when it goes wrong, I'm not sure how wrong it went in this game in terms of bloodlust, but they're not as good as I hyped them up to be. But yeah, vampires definitely a team I'd like to avoid. But who knows? Maybe I could get lucky against coming up against John himself. In terms of the ogres, I played against Andy in the tournament and got a pretty successful 2-0 win against him, but that was mainly down to just him boneheading. So, I mean, if the dice ain't right with ogres, that could go incredibly wrong as well.
Yep. I know, and James has commented in post, John is a master at managing the bloodlust, always covering, even when down to only a couple of thralls. And I believe he was down to 3 vampires as well at 1. Yes, we will be trademarking the phrase tactical turnover. So thank you very much for that. We are going to look at that. So we know these are 2 very experienced, very skilled coaches, Tom. Where would you go if you were either coach now in terms of sort of your next steps with these teams? We've mentioned a few of the skills there. We've mentioned the fact that the ogres seem to have got a good lot of skills and some not too bad ones on the randomizer. So they've got brawler and break tackle on a couple of ogres. They have got the 4 blockers and the super run punter. What's your thoughts on this?
I think I would take either of them just for their dice alone, because clearly they're racking up SPP, both of them, something I'm lacking seriously amount of. So it would be I've played vampires. I found them very, very frustrating in last season, but I've actually found them a little bit more enjoyable on a friendly or a tournament match. With putting some of some extra skills on to get started. The ogres still intrigue me. I've yet to play against them, but watching James with them, he's doing a cracking job with them. So I think my money is still on vampires going through.
Interesting. Well, it was at one stage, of course, it was 1-0 to James, turn 13, touchdown. And when I was watching that on the stream, I thought, that's it. It's going to be 1-0 to the ogres. But again, kudos to John. He can pull it out the bag like Paul Daniels used to do with the rabbit. Getting his touchdown on turn 15, keeping things very much alive, spicy and interesting in the group as well. So, yeah, we look forward to both. And, of course, James there has still got the Stunty Cup for the season to defend. So still lots to play for from both coaches. Again, if you do want to watch it, it's in chat. Very entertaining for the commentary as well. Now we come along to the little minor scuffle, shall we say, which was against our 2 coaches on the stream tonight. So we have Jack and the Norse, the Agathon Mewers, versus Mr. Hovell here and his human crewless. Sorry, Tom. One day I'll get it right. The clueless Crusaders.
They work on this in the match, I have to say.
So over to you guys. Why don't you take us through? What were your expectations before the match? Did the match go to plan, or as Blood Bowl never really does? What's your big takeout and learnings from this?
Well, the better man won on the day on this one. I started off trying to match him toe for toe on muscle by bringing in Mighty Zug, and then tried lots and lots of ways to get around the first half, much like the second half, was very much like playing chess. It was a Saturday morning. It didn't need to be that stressful.
Yeah.
So just before, Jack, just a shout out, you actually took the mighty Zug off the pitch, and I don't mean for some sort of romantic date. So do you want to tell us about how you got rid of probably one of the finest Blood Bowl star players of all time?
I mean, I can't lie. Before coming into the game, I knew Tom would get a bunch of inducements, and I was concerned at what star player he would take if he took one, which obviously he did, Mighty Zug, and he was causing some problems for my team at the start. You know, going into it with these strength for old foreigners, thinking they can do the bits. One of them had block, but he just kept knocking them, and I think knocking the lineman down. And I was like, you know what? Let's try get him off the pitch. What probably won't work. I'm a 10 and all that. But I used my my main player, Cilia, the Valkyrie, and I thought I could get a 2 dice Dauntless, which failed. And I was like, right, I guess it's the 1 dice. It is got the POW, and yeah, for some reason my dice rolled exceptionally. I managed to break the armor, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but I think it was a 6 for the injury, and yeah, I was very surprised at that. I mean, the turn before, I'm pretty sure you casualtied one of my my linemen, so it was kind of like, wow, I got to take one of your guys now. I'm taking him, so
Yep. Yeah.
Very surprised at that.
I think one of the fun parts of the game was that Jack had got a side cage within touchdown distance on his next turn. I literally only had my catcher, a blitzer, and a halfling. So I marked the edges of the cage and ran that halfling straight in to push the Valkyrie into the crowd. The ball then bounced and ended up on the halfway line in the hands of my lineman, who had unfortunately already moved, so he couldn't move anymore. And that was the end of my turn because everyone else had moved. And right in front of him was a prone Yeti. He rolled, failed to blitz, then passed the loner reroll, and then went up and just smashed that lineman straight out. It was one of those situations where I thought I'd pulled it out of the bag, I'd managed to get it there, and it falling into my hands, and then just as quickly as it came my way, it went as well.
You mentioned an interesting topic as well, then, Tom. So we're going to come to you, Jack. Yetis. Yeah. Did your Yeti, perform to your expectations? Would you take it again? And if you could improve it, what would you do?
I mean, to be honest, every time I've used Yeti, whether it be tournament friendlies, he's just not worth it. If I'm honest, he never performs. He's always on his arse, not doing a lot. This game, the same. All right, let's try and get him to stand up. No, he don't want to get up. He's chilling down there. But then you get a situation like that where the ball miraculously, I mean, I'm talking, it went to his end zone. I was like, right, yes. But then it bounced off the pitch, came all the way back on, like Tom said, onto his player, caught it, and I was like, right, that's game over. But the Yeti passed the loner, and he kicked that guy's ass, and I think that's what won me the game essentially. That Yeti. So what do you do? What do you say?
He's one of those players then who will do absolutely sweet FA for 15 turns and then just has that one moment of magic that just as a coach you forgive everything.
Yeah, the big skill that played quite a significant part for you was actually the disturbing presence. I wasn't aware it had disturbing presence, and I was trying to kind of do the 1-turn touchdown by lobbing the halfling. And blow me, every time I went to do it, within 3 squares was a Yeti on the floor, but it was still got the disturbing presence.
Cool.
That definitely came in handy. I mean, like you said, even on his backside, he can it still applies, and that helped. Apart from that time, I think it was the last turn or two where you tried to throw the halfling and you almost pulled it off. I was like, no, yeah, didn't quite happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A 1-0 win. Great result for the Norse there, and as we'll come on to, cement your place now in the top half of the league and gives you a place in the championship knockout. So congratulations, Jack. I believe, as I said to you Saturday morning, I take full credit for that, for calling you out as someone who I thought could go through from this league. So, Tom, you can blame me as always. Just put it with the rest of the stuff that you need to lay at my door. That's fine.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, Chris thought I wouldn't go through. He was like, "Yeah, I reckon Jack do well on the bottom league." I was like, "Wow, what do you think now, Chris?" I mean,
that's why he's
the results say it all.
That's why he's trying to be nice to you now, trying to claw that back. Yeah, so don't listen to any of it. So we're going to go there from actually, this was Saturday morning. This was the match on the next table. So this was yours truly, the Atomic Cherry Bombs, the Wood Elves, versus Sam and his double yoke. So Sam coming into this straight off the back of that 3-1 win the previous evening against Sid Saracens that we looked at a few moments ago as well. And the big thing for me was the Crocs wasn't there as well. So he'd been taken out. And this was a absolute, to quote Tom Huns, who was there in his special guest star role, the Prince of Vampires and the super coach of the Amazons, this was a fail dice fest. If you want to look at it, but it is on the YouTube. Now, we did, first of all, as well, we did try and do a bit of a bigger hype sensation for the intros. So that was very entertaining. They are not obligatory for all matches. You probably will be pleased to know as well. But it was designed to bring a bit of entertainment and razzmatazz to the world of A&D on a Saturday morning. So anything you guys want to ask or observations about this before I go on to the, where we were?
So how many people were in the dugout at any one time for you? Because I could just hear you going, every 5 minutes.
Well, the noises of pain that you so beautifully imitated there, that was really from all the failed dice rolls. I've got 2. Sam had bought an extra one to get up to 2. We had brilliant coaching as well. So we burned, between us, we burned all 5 re-rolls within the first 2 turns. My first turn, and everybody thinks with elves, they're 2+ with skills. So thrower picked the ball up, throws to the catcher, obviously on a 2++. Catcher with a 2++ catch, failed the re-roll. Then I did get a 3-up pickup, and then I failed a 2-up dodge. And it was like that. So I was failing all the dodges, the re-rolls, the pickups, and everything. Sam was rolling lots of double skulls, lots of both downs, and he was rolling them, as you always do, on the players who didn't have block. So he had tackle, which didn't help as an elf in terms of dodge and anything reroll, because you can't. And it was really there. Incredibly, I think at the worst case, I was down to 9 players. I had one player niggling injury, I believe one of the linesmen. Sam did get the foul. Then he got the touchdown with his skink as well, and it really was all pressure from Sam as well. It did start to kick back with a couple of casualties because Sam wasn't breaking armor that I've seen Sam previously as well, and then things started clicking in terms of casualties. So again, like you do against lizard men, where you target the one individual player, start taking out the skinks, the chameleons, one at a time, and it started to get a bit of traction there. And in terms of then, it got to turn 14 because when we did the kickoff event for halftime, we had when you move a turn forward, I believe it's rolling 3 on the kickoff events as well. So we actually only played 7 turns each in that second half. And it got to turn 14, whereby Sam had a side cage of Sauruses, He had more sources and blockers around them as well. And then elves do what elves do best. We had a war dancer. He jumped into that cage on a 5-up. And again, this is the time I had one reroll. Jumped into the cage on a 5-up, 2 dice uphill blitz, had a POW and a skull. So I had to do a reroll. I got a push and a POW. So we crowd surfed his lizard man, who obviously went, and as you can see there, turn 12. Not turn 13. It was the other guy. Yeah. So anyway, Sam had a blocker off with the playing with the crowd. The ball got thrown back on once. It went into my end zone. It went back up the pitch, off again. It came back on. Elf thrower managed to get in there, pick it up, dodge out, throw it to a war dancer who'd been loitering on the pitch at halfway, and he just ran like Billio. So it was an incredible match. It was really back and forth, ridiculously fun in times as well. And yeah, a very good match in terms of the 1-all. Puts the group in an interesting position. So when we look at the league tables, sort of benefited Tom a lot of the time as well. Simon can still have a big influence in terms of where this rest of the league and who qualifies for it as well. Because, you know, as coaches, apart from Tom and his, I don't think he's failed a dodge reroll yet. It was a very entertaining match to play in, as it were.
I noticed that you've stuck to what you said and haven't randomized any skills, but you've now got some very useful skills on a few players there. So that's going to come into big play as well. So it's not all out and done and dusted, especially for Tom.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much because otherwise I'll feel the bounty hunters sort of sniffing, as it were. But people can go look at tour play. We have a war dancer now with tackle, so obviously that gives us the blodger. So he's got block, dodge, leap, and with tackle, and now we've got block, dodge, leap, and strip ball as well. We've also got a catcher with sprint to give us that extra one go for it if needed. And there you go, Bob Icing Bakewell, man, myth, legend. So yeah, starting to do that, and I think it's Bounty, this player. Thank you very much. I'll take that as the best compliment you can possibly offer there, Chris. But really, I always knew, as we said, Tom, we've said it several times, this is a 2-season team build as well. My only question I'm going to be looking at after the next match is, do I get the tree? I've always had awful problems with the trees, you know, and this goes for Blood Bowl and outside anyway, but it's another story. So it's a question of, how we just evolve this team and keep going at it little by little by little. And it just shows, how Team 2. And it'll be interesting when we talk over the next few Blood Bowl, ADBBL Monday night roundups, and we start thinking about, one, how are people going to develop skills? People like Jack, as he goes into the championship, but obviously all the other coaches now going into possibly the conference as well. So I think it does feel like we're getting towards the end of the season. Jack, any thoughts about the stupidity and the entertainment value that you saw in this match?
Yeah, I mean, that's just another great game. I wish I could have, saw it in person a little bit, but the amount of concentration me and Tom had to put into ours, sort of took away from watching the game. But from what I heard and when I did peer over, like you say, a lot of re-rolls, a lot of stuff going wrong. But then again, it was on both sides, so kind of evens it out a bit. Overall, yeah, it's a great game, and looks like you've got some pretty good players there now, those war dancers. So you reckon you can still pull through to the championship behind Tom? I mean, it's not all over yet.
It's not. If my dice don't roll as poor as they did in the first half on Saturday, if they don't roll as badly as they did against Tom, if they don't roll as bad as they did against Sam in our first match, then yeah, possibly. And particularly with a couple of war dancers, one with strip ball, one with tackle, that's not a bad thing. And of course, we've got the APOC in the stands to keep them alive. So fingers crossed. So whilst we had a bit of a failed dice fest on one table, we seem to have spread that to one of the other tables as well. So the third Saturday morning excitement that we had was reigning champion Elliot with his new necromantic horror team, and then Graham coming back with his Toxin Runners for the second season with Skaven as well. So Necro Horror seem to be very, very high on people's lists and obviously doing well in the meta at the moment. Skaven are Skaven, they'll either destroy the opposition or they'll kill themselves trying as well. So we started this match, feedback from Tom Hunt, super coach and super commentator for Saturday as well, was that there were a lot of failed rolls, especially using all the rerolls for the gutter runners and the rats in the first half as well. The weather was pouring rain, which doesn't help the Necros on a good day as well. So it really, really pushes things towards. So from your perspective, looking at this, and Jack, I don't know if you've had the chance to speak to Elliot about this, not the easiest of matchups. So what was the feedback? Did you get the chance to get any feedback from Elliot on this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like. Well, I know what it's like to lose outside of the league. I mean, I'm not trying to obviously boast or anything, but I know he didn't want to say too much about the loss, which is, is fine. But I know for a fact he told me, like you said, with his team, there was a lot of failed pickups. I believe it was to get that 2-2. He tried picking up, what was it, 3 or 4 times, and every time it failed. I mean, what are you meant to do about that? There's not a lot you can. If the dice aren't there, the dice aren't there. So it's a shame, really. I mean, yeah.
It is, as you're rightly saying, Tom. It started so well for Elliot as well. The injury and injury to the Skaven Throne. We now know how potent that Skaven throws can be, even in the pouring rain as well. And then the werewolf Gustav comes along with a touchdown. So by half time, looking like a pretty solid position there for Elliot. But then those dirty, lovely gutter runners, if you can't keep them down, they are going to come back and take any opportunity they can. What's your thoughts on this one, Tom?
Yeah, and I believe that there was the infamous double skulls into double skulls as well on this game as well for Elliot. Correct me if I'm wrong in chat. So is that sort of situation where things go against you? Like you mentioned, pouring rain. You've only got a few players that can actually pick that ball and run with it on the Necromantic Horror Zone. And equally, as you've quite rightly put it, if you've still got gut runners on the pitch, they're going to score. So it makes it an interesting division for them because, again, it's Elliot's actually an unusual position of being at the bottom in 4th in that division with 2 games to play. So, and we said before that this is one of those divisions that is a tight one. We've got a lot of well experienced and very good coaches in that division. So, it's all to play for, I suppose.
It is. And if we look at the makeup of the both teams, as you said, Elliot, he's in the pouring rain. He's got 2 of his players who can't even pick the ball up on a good day. So it really, really difficult. And when you do, to put icing on that cake, when you do roll a double skull and Nuffle says you're having another double skull for free, it can absolutely ruin your day on a good day. But Graham and his toxins, he's at 1.4 million. So he's obviously going to be looking at, starting to be quite an expensive team. He's got some very good skills on there. We know his gutter runner, Checktruch Nighthorn, is on the bounty list as well. So if you want to see the bounty list, you can have a look in Discord. He is sitting there with a fine bounty on his head, but he's also got a gutter runner with block and strip ball. If you're going to break a cage and you're going to have to roll 2 dice uphill, thank you very much indeed, every time. When you look at this team then, Jack, in terms of the development for the Skaven and some of the skills they've got, is this, again, someone you'd want to avoid rather than play, especially, given the dynamic? And one of the things as well for Graham, he has been throwing a lot. If you look at the previous match against the Dwarves, he was going for it. He's got Cannoneer. He's not afraid to hoon it down the pitch as well. So is this the sort of team then for you, Jack, that would give you a few things that you had to double guess and second guess about?
Oh, 100%. I mean, just looking at the players at the top, obviously I get why people go on about these gutter runners. I mean, movement 9, that's crazy. I mean, I'd have to seriously think about what sort of setups before the match even starts to go with against a team like this Skaven team. Like you say, you got some blodgers there now. The strip ball is always handy, safe pass. Unfortunately, he randoed and got shadowing, but I did that with my Valkyrie. But yeah, apart from that, that's looking to be a very good team, and not one I'd like to come up against. That's for sure.
It is. He's obviously playing it with. Sorry, Tom.
Do you think this is a team to interrupt the Riotous Rams or compete with the Riotous Rams, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show?
I think they've definitely got the dodge factor that Jack alluded to. Obviously, the gutter runners are 9s with dodge. He's got a couple that all or 3 out of the 4 have block. We know he's got the 2 heads as well, so that'll give him the +1 on the edge roll. We know his strip ball can be ridiculously good. So potentially, if he can stay out of the range of any of the, if he did draw the Rams, but then we know they've got tackle and diving tackle amongst everything else as well then. So that would be a very good. He's looking good, 1.4 million. He's now got 14 players available, which is a really good. 2 very good wins, 6 touchdowns scored as well, 5 dedicated fans. So he is going to get the money. Whether or not, Graham, you are going to go for a Roger, don't know if you're in chat this evening. Graham is a good coach to play against JD Clark. Fully agree with that. One of the few coaches who brings his cards as well. And I always like that. I always think, something maybe I should invest, but I spend enough money as is. So good win then in terrible conditions for the Skaven against the Necromantic Horror. Last thing on that, before we finish on that match, we've mentioned Elliot had some really awful weather. He's really awful in terms of pickups and double skulls into double skulls. Would you expect Elliot to take a new team next season, Jack?
No, I mean, I've spoken to him other times about his team after the matches he's played, and he emphasised this is definitely a team he would have to build up over at least 2 seasons. I mean, when I first started playing against Necromantic Horror, Tom using him, I think Elliot used him as well. Obviously, my inexperience didn't help, but I know they can be a pretty nasty team, especially when you start getting those skills on them. So, yeah, if what he says is true, I reckon he'll take him to the second league. I mean, I've got to give him props for ditching the Dwarves, because everyone seemed to hate that. And I told him, I know he was indecisive about what team to go for this season. Obviously, being a new player, I wasn't entirely sure what he'd go with. But yeah, I got to say, well done for ditching the Dwarves. Although I did tell him, just take them. I know everyone hates them, but just, who cares? But obviously, he's bit the bullet and he's gone for a new team.
Elliot does have the fallback position that he is an ADBBL champion no matter what happens in the future. So he has got his name carved in the stonework that is the ADBBNL history and mythology as well. Now, sticking with the topics of Skaven, Graham has just posted in chat, after the next game, I may have enough for a Ratto, but I think you deserve it, Graham. I think you should. I think you need to experience the insanity and the possible self-destruction that a Roger can bring to the wonderful world of rats. And whilst we're on the topic of rats, also then, we know that rats, as we've said, and both of you gentlemen have pointed out, rats can take any opportunity, but sometimes rats can kill themselves and just be very, very painful. Takes us nicely, almost as if we thought about what we're going to talk about tonight, into the last match we're going to cover, the Buffalo Biggins. Harrison, bit of a sticky start to the season, coming up against the Plague Brigade, so the new Skaven team for this particular season as well. So if we look at it, both sides coming into this match off very different and very challenging. So prior to this, Harrison had just got his first win against the Flamingos. So this is after 2 very close 1-0 defeats to the Flamingos, the Gobos, and to Mr. David Rue and the Dead Star Belgrade. Counter to that, and we know Harrison is a very good, obviously this is a finalists team as well, redrafted, coming up against the Plague Brigade. Well, this was one whereby the Rats had it tough. They really, really had as well. So, yeah, looking at the Rats at the moment, you look at the stats, 2-1, but 6 casualties for the Orcs. Orcs really doing what they do so well. And Skaven just providing them with punching practice by the look of it as well.
And
Tom?
And Creed Ruskauger didn't even deter them either. He was brought in on the Skaven side, which is interesting because he didn't look like he'd actually left the pitch at all at any point.
Well, Krieg has the I'll be back special ability, so instead of getting sent off the first time, he can come back, of course, which is always a good thing. But as you said, didn't really stem the tide. So Harrison seems to be hitting his straps, as it were, Jack. What's your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I was watching this match on Tour Play very closely. Obviously, Harrison being my cousin. Watched it anyway, but once I started seeing those casualties roll in, I was like, oh my god! I mean, is that the most casualties for a team in a match this season so far?
I don't know. That's one we'll have to throw out there maybe for this week or next week to our stats aficionado, Tom. What do you think?
I'll look through them.
We'll have to have a little running roster of where we are in terms. We can have a look at the honours board if we get time this evening. Otherwise, we will jump on that next week as well. Skaven, as you said,
you are right. He is the most. He's got most killer with 5 deaths under his belt. The Buffalo Biggins. He's also, in fact, he's not even on the most injured. Which is, but yeah, he's doing a lot of damage by the looks of things.
And are any of the Plague Brigade on the most injured there?
Yep, they're in 4th position with 15 injuries, which I think this game did a big chunk of that. But Harrison, although had unfortunately a bit of a slow start in this season with unfortunately 2 losses, has now started to pick up momentum on this, and is on the back of on 2 wins in out of 2 so far. So good luck to him. You know, he's one that he plays those Orcs, as I said many times in the previous season, very well. So it'll be good to see.
And we do have a Deading coach in the chat this evening about that, and I know it. You know, it's a tough. He's in a tough league as well. You know, you've got a redrafted semi-finalist team. You've got Dave and his redrafted team. You've got Scott and his absolutely wonderfully insane goblins as well. So to come back, and as we say in chat, there was actually one. You know, they had a gutter with 1-2 ball carrier to the end zone, 4+3+3+2+. Rush, we do love that, absolutely. So the gutter runner apparently had a 2+ dodge with a reroll to make the score 2-all on turn 16 and failed. Your heart's got to go out to the coach for that, Jack. Yes or no? Or do you think, nah, tough? That's what Nuffle says.
Oh no! I mean, situations like that, you know, it's just unfortunate. I mean, we were just talking in the previous game about how brilliant these Skaven can be, but as you said, coming up against was it 3 redrafted teams? I mean, you got to feel for him in that aspect. And yeah, looking at his team at the moment, I'm not seeing a lot of players. I'm seeing obviously an injury as well. But then I love to see it from Harrison because, you know, rough start, like you said, and hopefully he can pull it back all the way.
If you were in charge of a Skaven team like this, then, Tom, you've still got 3 gutter runners, you've still got your 2 blitzers and a thrower, of course, who's on a passing 2+ with passing sure hands for that 3+ pickup as well. You know you're going to have just standard linemen in terms of your, the journeyman for the next match because you've only got 7 players. You're going to get 4 journeymen at least coming in there. 4 journeymen is going to be, by my maths, is going to be 200k because they're 50k each. So you're only going to be at 980. So you're going to have a few inducements again. What would from your perspective, if you were coaching these, what would you be looking to do and get out of the next few games?
I suppose it's all a matter of are you going to take them through to the next season? As you quite rightly say, I thought my screen had frozen, but yes, there is only 8 players currently on that team, one of which will miss the next game, and that's the block dodge gutter runner as well. But he's got a few star player points on the other two gutter runners, which you might want to kind of maybe randomize. But as I say, it would all bear in mind as to, do I take these through to the next season, yes or no? Or do I just go, right, let's have some fun, randomize these actually three players with some skills? Because as you quite rightly put it, you're still going to have a lot of money to play around with to get some inducements into the following games.
It is, and it sets up everything nicely. And again, if the Rats just go with YOLO, and they just go for it, that could really, put a different spin on it for the other coaches as well. So Rats still very going to be very influential and impactful in this league.
Apparently in chat, the plan is that at the moment will be a new Rats next season with Roger in tow.
As a fellow Rat coach, have a Roger. Things are beauty. The more Rogers we can get on the pitch, that's only a good thing anyway. So, and again, both coaches, they're praising themselves, which is always good to see in this community. We have seen, and let's talk about it again for a very few minutes, seen a great level of community support, help between all the coaches, between our rookie new coaches, our redrafted coaches, and the coaches who have been here for a long, long time as well. Jack, as a rookie coach coming in, what's been your thoughts in terms of the environment, the community, and everything?
Honestly, it's probably. I mean, it brings me back to because I used to be a big video game enthusiast. That's all I do. And as you get older, I don't know if you guys have dabbled in, Call of Duty, all that stuff. You sort of, I mean, the games are bad now anyway. But coming into a community like this, playing this brilliant game, I mean, half my day, all I'm doing is checking tour play, checking everything, seeing if there's any games coming up. I mean, Rich, being my uncle, bought me that Norse team when it came out a couple of years ago. I was like, oh, tabletop, not for me. I'm like, what's that? But now I'm obsessed with it, and I've put a lot of time in. I enjoy every game I play, the friendlies, even the ones losing. I know it takes a while. I don't know what everyone else's experience is, but it took me a while to even figure out how to do certain things like a cage or plan to get certain players on the floor and get even a touchdown. And now I'm just like, my head's in it. And yeah, brilliant game, brilliant environment. Everyone's really friendly, and you couldn't really ask for more.
Cool. Well, thank you for those kind words. But of course, there is no check and there is no post, just to manage your expectations there. We are on a tight budget of 0 when we look at this. But let's go and let's have a look at the standings. So there is, he's just mentioned it as well. There is Jack and the Agathan Mewers sitting there on top of Orchidas. Looking good. Well, obviously, Jack is now through. So it looks like we're going to have a second place shootout between Jane and Tom. Tom, you said at the start of the season your goal was for getting 2 wins. You're gonna, are you still confident about that? You've got a bit of SPP in terms of team value as well, not SPP, CTV in terms of team value. Feeling confident? Are you going to be bringing the Zug back? What's your plans?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'll be able to afford the Zug in any of the other coming games. I've got 2 to play against Amazons and 1 to go play against the Necromantic Horrors. So I've got my first game against Amazons this Thursday. So fingers crossed I get a win out of that, and then I can finish the season happy.
Very good indeed. Well, we'll see what Jane. And who's your last game against, Jack? Is that against Jane and the Wolverhampton?
Yeah. That's my last game. Obviously, we drew last time. Which is okay. It's better than a loss, I guess. But I'm really hoping to pull in that last win this time and make sure we've actually got the amount of time to have a proper good game. But you never know. You just don't know. The dice could go wrong for me, but we'll hope for the best.
Excellent. And then fingers crossed we'll see what happens when we get to the knockout draw stages to see where Nuffle will send you, or where the Gremlins of Tour Play will decide your fate. Going on to the next league, we're looking at Bloodwiser. So Coach Acredes and the fetid feet of Mr. Luke Baggett sitting there pretty. Acredes has qualified already, 18 points. Luke and his fetid feet are just sort of catching up almost, but he's done his games, has 15 points in the bag. So John and his gnomes still can catch him. He's 4 points. There's 11 points he needs out of 3. And we know, and again, a big thank you to Chris there for stepping in for Nick as his Padawan prodigy to start playing with the Inglorious Bastards, the pride of Nurgle, no rerolls, as deemed by the team owner. So it's going to be very interesting. Tom, any thoughts on this one, or do you think it's done and dusted with Luke and second place?
Well, it's an interesting one, as you quite rightly put it, that these Nurgle with no rerolls and nothing to lose. And as we know, when the pressure's off, the dice play hot. So I think there's going to be some interesting games to come up here and see where we end up.
I think it is going to be a different one. And if we think that is, fighting over one place, let's go on to Chaos Cola. This is a very, very close, very, very tight. So we talked about that. Elliot seems to be a bit of a role reversal. He's had the 2 losses now, but he's still not out of the equation. Anything can happen. At the moment, Justin's sitting pretty. He does have the game in hand against Jamie and the Dwarfs as well. And Graham really turning this one up with the mix. So do you think this is a bit too close to call, gentlemen? Or is there one particular team which you think maybe, the Halflings or maybe the Rats have a bit of momentum and they could be the 2 teams to sort of pull away? Or again, is this just one game at a time?
For me personally, like you said, it's quite close to call. I know Elliot hasn't had the best of seasons so far, but that is what is the maximum? Like that's a potential 12 points he could get there if he plays his cards right. And if the luck runs out with the Toxin Runners or the Halfling team, you never know. He could go back up to first place. So. Yeah, it's hard to really call that one, but those Skaven are very dangerous from what I've seen.
Yeah, Skaven sitting at 1.4 million in terms of team value. Plus, of course, the Roger is a chunky 150. Possibly a few wizards and interesting things for inducements floating around, Tom.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's only 4 points between top and bottom in this one. There's no, as you said, no runaway lead at the moment, or no one just resided to the fact that they're out of this at all. It's all to play for in this one. In fact, I probably have to say that it's probably the tightest division in the whole season.
It is. And if we go then from the tightest division to, so we say, an ominous runaway at the moment into the next league, which is McMurtry's. And there they are, the Rams sitting pretty. 3 from 3, 16 points, 7 touchdowns for, just the 1 against. And look at those casualties. Ouch. 15 casualties, 4 against. Can you see anyone else getting close, or do you think this is a foregone conclusion, Jack?
Let's be honest. The Rams are going to make it through. If we're being totally real, if Rich can keep up these games, like we've said, it's a redrafted team, looking very hot there. But then everyone's still got 3 games to play, so you never know. If Rich has a few bad games and a plenty of bad dice, then you just don't know. He might not make it through. But if I'm being honest, he's definitely going to take the top spot.
It is looking going to be a challenge. So we've talked about it's going to be, two known teams in there. One sitting second with Dave. Still got to play Sir Honkerton's Folly a second time as well. But Simon's showing he can start to cause a few problems for people. So yeah, that's going to be interesting over the next several weeks as well. Next quick, this is another interesting one. So at the moment, Robert and James sitting on top of the league. Robert with the 2 games in hand. We know the Golden Oldies have only played a couple so far. They've, got the draw in terms of the draw, I believe, against John. John's still not out of it. 5 points. He knows how to manage the game. He knows how to play, and if he does get a bit of luck with the old bloodlust and doesn't lose his thralls, do you think that's it's still like the previous few leagues we've mentioned? Still anybody's game there, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those ones where there isn't someone sitting there in the teen points. It's still quite close to the top. Just a bit unfortunate that Robert's only played two games and he's at the top there, whereas the others have played more than that. The Vampires, yeah, it's all down to the luck of the dice really with them. But again, as you look at the casualties, it's again been a very high scoring casualty rate in this division, as well as the next one as well.
Yeah, that takes us on to Ikilia. If we look at where we are at the moment, so Dave already qualified. We can see where everything is, and we can see Harrison. We mentioned it before. He is creeping up on those flamingos. That's just in a metaphorical term. Whatever Harrison does outside on the weekends is his own personal business. But he's come from 2 defeats to the 2 wins. He's now beaten the flamingos. He's now got the Plague Brigade. So he's got Dave to play with Dead Star Belgrave again, and he's got the Skaven to play again. You know Harrison very, very well, Jack. Do you think he's going to be taking that second space away from Scott? Or do you think it's one of those that could go right down to the last dice, the last turn, the last drive of that last game in this league?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you say he's got another game against that Skaven team. If we can see a lot more of what we saw a couple of days ago, or yesterday, was it? I mean, he could easily take that second spot. What is he? 7 points away. So that's a couple of pretty good games that he'd have to do. But I'm hoping he can take that. Sorry for Scott, but I hope he can take that second place away from him.
Scott, Mr. Norman, if there's anything you want to come back in chat and say, we love a bit of trash talk in this. So I wouldn't say that Jack is saying your time is done, but oh, that's family for you. Okay, let's go down a couple more leagues to just take ourselves through. Spike Mag, JD Clark, and the Doombringers. Nothing at the moment happening in this particular league this week. JD already qualified there, top of the league. Loserville already looking good as well. And Mr. Chris Coe, the people's champion, Chris. So, yeah, you can take the moral victory. And, of course, you've got the Pustards to look forward to as well. So 2 done there and done and dusted. Last but by no means least, we have the Popcorn. Mr. Tom Hunn sitting there, 16 points, 4 wins out of 4. Again, sneaking under the radar, looking good. Playing the double yokes this Friday. That's going to be the big one. Other matches to be arranged, but again, it really looks like it's that fight for second place. Tom, any thoughts, predictions, hopes?
Well, come on. I'm hoping you'll get better dice, and obviously you can buy more dice at the local store, Aardvarks and Dragons. So if yours have run out of luck, you can always buy them there.
You on commission, or
I want to make sure that my dice work on Thursday. That's what I'm trying to do. But yeah, so I think it's, again, like you say, I think Tom's through, but second's not out of reach for you. So I think it's going to be a hard fought 2 more games for the remainder of this season for all of you.
It is as well. And I can only apologise to Sam as well. If you actually go in, and I don't know if our technical wizard can click on the double yolks as well and just pop in to see the double yolks. If we think about Friday night's match between the Amazons and the Lizard Men, if you look at the Lizard Men, they are down to 9 players. Yes, the big fella, the Crocs, will be back. They don't have, Sam's talking about obviously taking a couple of cheap linemen in terms of his skinks, so it's going to set it up very, very nicely indeed. And that should be live. So thank you to our technical. If you can jump in, Chris, just click on the calendar so we can have a look at what's already booked on Tour Play. This should whet your appetite, Jack, in terms of your Tour Play fixes for the week. Again, guys, if you're playing and you haven't, remember, pop them on Tour Play. Don't forget to book. Speak to go in store, speak to Scott's, use the A&D official channel to book a table. Don't phone him direct because he won't answer. So this week we've got coming up, we've got the big match day between Jamie and the World's Edge Dwarves, and then we've got the Halflings and Justin's T-Belly Trudgers as well. So that's going to be a big one in terms of how that group looked. We looked and saw how close it was. Then we've got the big clash on Friday night. We've got the Amazons against the Lizard Men. It's looking, very, very, at the moment, you'd think it was all on Tom, but we know Sam has been really developing these Lizard Men very well. And then the next one we've got, which isn't until next week. So, Jack, you can put your feet up, have a cup of tea, decide what you're going to do for the next several days and weeks as you prepare to head into the knockouts as well, and you can leave all the sweating in that league and the considerations up to Mr. Tom Hovell there as well, and the Clueless Crusaders. Cool. Anything else you want to shout out there this evening? First of all, what's been your match of the week? Who's been your sort of player of the week, and any particular standout moments in terms of bounties that you want to talk about, Tom?
I think the match of the week has to be for me our game, Jack and my game. It was brutal. It took a lot of mental effort on an early Saturday morning. I should have had more cups of coffee on that side of things. I think looking at the league and looking at the games that we've just gone through, there's been some fantastic kind of showmanship on it. I don't think there's been any kind of real runaways in this. We've seen that, yes, we've got some people who have already gone through to the next part, but everyone has played exceptionally well and great games. So well done.
Cool. And anybody who's floating your boat for a particular bounty objective this week? Anyone you want to recommend?
Oh, don't know. I'll leave that to Jack to decide.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I don't want to say the same game, but our game was just, I've never known so much stress in my life on a video game, or a game, to be honest with you. Like, I came in thinking, right, it'll be tough, but it'll be a good game, and that just, it swept me off my feet in terms of having to think. So that was definitely our game. Our game of the week. In terms of a coach, maybe, I'd have to give it to Harrison for bringing it back with 2 wins and all those casualties on that game. That was, even though it wasn't streamed, that was really fun to sort of watch happen. But yeah, and if I was going to go for a player, I'll give it to Tom's halfling on screwing me over. That was crazy. I wasn't happy, but it worked out in the end. But yeah.
Excellent stuff. Match of the week from me will go to the Dead Star Belgrade, Dave, and to Flamingos and Scott. Fantastic gentlemen. Just how good it was. Robert Lewandowski from the Dead Star. He does get my bounty nomination for the week as well. A few bits coming in from chats. Thank you, Chris. They're talking about player of the week, Bob the Chosen, that for player of the week and for bounty of the week. So one of the Rams as well. JD, bounty on old cherry bombs, scare them into playing better. I'll take that in with the intent is met as well. So thank you for that. Love you too, JD. just a reminder as well, then, if you do want to donate to the Macmillan page, you still can. Please do. If you want to be on our ADBBL next Monday, Monday night roundup, if you want to be where Jack is, not breaking into Jack's house and sitting on his sofa, if you want to be here on the ADBBL Monday night roundup, please let us know. And you can come along, you can touch us, you can tug us, you can shout us out, anything you want to do as well. Jack, thank you very much for everything. Thanks for contributing. More than welcome to come along next time. Tom, being professional, being emotional as always, thank you very much for everything. This has been ADBBL Monday night roundup. Have a great time, everybody. Happy Blood Bowl.